Welcome to InterPartyConflict, the podcast where we answer your questions so you can have the best tabletop gaming experience possible. My name is Gabe.
And my name is Jeff.
And we're going to answer your questions today, but first, I have a question. Jeff, how are you doing today?
I'm doing all right. Skylar made some delicious soup yesterday, so I just had a big old bowl of that.
Cool.
For dinner today. So really doing pretty good now.
Cool. It was my father-in-law's birthday a couple days ago, so we still have some leftovers from that. So yeah. So food is good.
Not much beats like good leftovers, because like you have the good meal and then the whole rest of the next day you're like, oh man, I got those leftovers at home. I'm so excited. So, it's like anytime after like for the longest time after Thanksgiving, like my cousins would always give us like a bunch of leftovers to take home, and so we would eat like kings for like a day and a half.
Sure. If we ever wanted to do another dinner party conflict, or if we wanted to do a bonus episode that was another dinner party conflict,
right?
I would love to talk about foods that are better or worse as leftovers.
That's a pretty good topic. Because I'm sure a lot of people would. I feel like that would be split on a bunch of things.
Sure. Not really much else is going on. It was just Labor Day a few days ago.
Right. Yep.
Did you do anything exciting?
I actually got to go see my family. Haven't seen them in a while.
Okay.
As, I'm sure people can understand why.
Sure.
But yeah, we just like my parents have a lake house, and so like. We decided to go out for Labor Day, and we were there for a couple days. And cool. I don't know, it was nice. They have a little pontoon boat, so we just kind of relaxed on the boat a couple times. And I brought my telescope out there, which I don't have a lot of chances to use that here, so I just left it out there because I was like, plus I didn't have to lug it back and forth. But it was actually pretty good viewing there. It wasn't like super great. Like there was some light pollution because it's not too far from, not a huge city, but a city.
Sure.
But like, I don't know if anybody stargazed around Labor Day in the northern hemisphere. There was you could see Jupiter and Saturn were pretty well visible.
Cool.
And then Mars and the moon were like right next to each other, so it was kind of neat.
I feel like through your telescope, I once was able to see Jupiter, and I thought that blew my mind.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like I showed it to my niece. I showed them to my niece, and she sounded a little disappointed because they're on every kid's got like iPads and stuff like that. So like they see these like high definition images of all these things, and it's like that's what they expect to see when they look through the scope. And it's like, no, it's this. Like when you see it in the sky, it's a tiny little dot. When you see it in a microscope, it's a slightly bigger tiny little dot.
Right.
But I mean, like in the case of like Saturn and Jupiter, you can actually make out some of the details. At least in my telescope. I know there's better telescopes out there for looking at planets, but I don't know. I thought it was neat.
Did you know that when Galileo first saw Saturn, he thought that it had like ears?
Sure. Yeah.
And then for a while, it was believed to be like a mountain range that was so big that it was visible. But no, we know better now.
Right, of course. Because we're all super smart now.
We're not super. That's the thing. We're not super smart now.
Yeah,
we just have the knowledge of all of these other people before they did all the smart work.
Right. And people did all the dumb stuff ahead of time so that we look smarter. Yep.
Right. Okay. Well, yeah. That sounds like a lot of fun. I know I did see some pictures of yours on Facebook, but yeah, it's cool to hear about your trip.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, Did you do anything?
No, I pretty much laid around in bed all weekend.
I mean, that is what I do normally. So
I guess
I'm happy for you.
We had plans, like Lisa and I were gonna do stuff, and then just all of them just kind of went by the wayside. I also on Tuesday specifically, we're listeners, a little peek behind the curtain. We're recording this a little later than we usually do because. On the day we usually would, I was dealing with I was trying to run a bunch of errands, and every single one of them kept blowing up in my face. And so I just I was, especially on Tuesday, I was stressed out, so I didn't want to do anything, and I just laid around instead. So
that is my default mode. So don't worry about it.
Gotcha. All right. Well, you want to go ahead and jump into this episode?
Yeah.
Okay. So I want you to imagine that this may be hard for you to imagine, Jeff, but you've had a rough day at work.
Oh, okay. Hold on. I'm getting there. All right. I'm there.
It's up to you to determine what exactly was it that made your day rough. But you got off work and you want to just go and unwind somewhere before you go home. And you remember that there's a new bar that opened up down the road that's kind of on the way home. Hey, couldn't hurt to go and stop in there. So you go inside. You didn't catch the sign. It's called a tavern instead of a bar. There was some logo or something. You didn't take note of it. But you get inside and the bartender turns around and he's a particularly large individual. And he slides a glass over to you. He doesn't even ask what you want. He just slides one over to you and he says, "You look like you've had a rough day."
I was like, "Yeah, I could use a drink, thanks."
We'll tell you what, this is a special house brew here. We have our own equipment in the back. It's an IPA. We brew it in the back. Gabe doesn't know where he's going with this story, so here, let me show you what our logo is. And he lifts up and he shows you the logo. It's a picture of him, the bartender, standing over a big pile of gold. And do you know what this IPA is called?
What is it called?
It is called the Dragon's Hoard.
Should be like the Dragon's Hops. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Spoken from someone who does not drink. So right, I took some liberties with the story. I hope that's okay.
I didn't used to be into IPAs, but then I started drinking a lot of them for a while, and they're pretty good.
Yeah. So today's magic item was submitted by Alistar the Minotaur via Reddit, and the item is the Panic Button. This it's a pretty simple item, but I think it's kind of neat. This item is a small, ornate, mithril elven cube with a hinge and a locked lid. Under the lid is a single red button. Once pressed, which takes an action, the cube teleports you and any allies you choose within 15 feet to an open seat at the nearest friendly tavern. Upon arrival, there is a mug of ale sitting in front of each member. Once the button is pressed, the magic of the item fades, and the box itself turns to ash. And that's it.
That's really good. I like that a lot.
Yeah. Sometimes you just need to go have a drink at the tavern.
Yeah, you just need to get out of there.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think I like how it's consumable. If it wasn't, if it was a reusable thing, it'd be less interesting to me, I think.
Yeah, more easily exploited, and yeah. But I like the idea that it's a consumable. It might even be like created by a wizard that owned a tavern or something, and it's like it's kind of like a business card sort of a thing.
That I really like.
Oh my god, this actually made me think of Monkey Island. There's a used boat salesman. And like there's this whole thing where you gotta like haggle with him and stuff, and it's very like stereotypical used car salesman like kind of character.
Okay.
And so you're trying to buy a boat to go on a quest or whatever.
Sure.
And so like what if you're haggling with him and you find out you don't have enough money, you got to go find money. He like gives you his card and he gives you a compass. And he's like, but it's a special compass that always points back to my shop. So
it's pretty good.
So like it's just like it's basically a magic item that only points towards his used boat lot or whatever.
Sure.
So this could be like a business card of a wizard who owns a tavern who wants like returning customers,
Okay. Yeah. I actually like it better if it takes you to a specific tavern rather than just whatever's the nearest one.
Mm-hmm. Although it would be kind of funny because it's like what is the nearest tavern? Like it just be some like random rundown place. It's like not even really in business anymore. And
sure,
your party shows up with the drinks in front of them, and like the bartender's like, I don't even own glasses like that. What is going on? Like,
Yeah.
We don't serve that here. What do you?
Or what if you're actually perfectly equidistant between two taverns, and so half the party goes to one tavern, the other half goes to another?
Yeah, the other detail was like open seats. So like doesn't mean that all open seats have to be at one table. So you like you end up at half your party ends up at somebody else's table.
One of the seats is like in a closet.
Right, yeah, it was just a chair that wasn't being used.
Yeah.
So I feel like there's a lot of interesting things you could do with this, you know. I don't know. I like it a lot.
Yeah, no, it's nice, it's simple, it's fun. It actually reminds me of, I don't remember if I ever brought it in for the Dragon's Horde, but during the 5th edition game that I ran back when I first moved back to Michigan, I gave one of the players a magic item that was a bar stool that if you sit in it, it gives you a mug of ale. And then when you're done, the mug of ale the mug just disappears.
Sure.
But yeah, I kind of in my head, I imagine the same wizard making both of these two items.
Right. Yeah. Sure.
Maybe he had a friend that was going to be going off, moving to some other country. So he made him a bar stool. They're like, well, this will always give you, a mug of my ale or something.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's cool. You know what? I kind of really like this wizard barkeep character.
Cool.
Like he's trying to find ways to like keep more customers coming. So like he's like, all right, take this thing, it teleports you back to the tavern, or like take this bar stool, it actually like basically brings my bar with you in a way. So like it keeps a running tab or something.
In Justin from Crit Academy, in his games, there's a running theme of or a running element of bourbon toe. Is like there was a gnome, I think, that one of his players played named Merrick Bourbon Toe, and he made this world famous bourbon. And so in every campaign that Justin runs or plays in, he shoehorns Bourbon Toe in there somehow. He even brought it up in the actual play that we did.
Yeah, I was gonna say that sounds familiar. Yeah.
So listeners out there, it's up to you guys to make more magic items that are from this mysterious tavern themed wizard.
Right. Yeah.
So good luck, everybody out there.
Right. Yep.
All right. I think that'll do it for this item. Once again, it was the Panic Button submitted by Alistar the Minotaur via Reddit. So thank you very much, Alistar. Jeff, if anybody else wanted to submit magic items for the Dragon's Horde, or if they want to submit questions for us to discuss, or stories for the Funeral Pyre or Retirement Village, how would they get those to us?
They could send us an email at interpartyconflict@gmail.com or join us on our Interparty Discord at bit.ly/interpartydiscord.
That's correct. And before we go any further, we've got a giveaway to give away today, but this is the first giveaway of Unearthed Tips and Tricks Volume 2.
No way. Hold on. I'm looking at the winner right now.
Well, okay. To be fair, when I rolled for this, we only had like 3 people on the list. So
sure,
and he was the first one to get one in, so it's not a surprise.
Wasn't he the last?
No. Actually, Alistar the Minotaur was the last.
Oh, okay.
Of Unearthed Tips and Tricks Volume 1. Now I'm pretty sure he won. Sorry, Jeff. Who's the winner today?
Okay. Today's winner is Dustin F.
Whoa, winner. Gobble, gobble, gobble. Yes, congratulations, Dustin. Dustin, I'm pretty sure he won Unearthed Tips and Tricks 1 a long time ago, I think. I could be wrong.
Oh, did he?
I don't know. It all runs together, I guess.
Yeah, okay. I don't know.
I swear this is not the Dustin show. So anyway, thank you very much, Dustin, for entering. For anybody who's not familiar with Unearthed Tips and Tricks Volume 2, maybe this is your first episode you're listening to, in which case, welcome. Unearthed Tips and Tricks Volume 2 is a book made by the wonderful minds behind the podcast Crit Academy, which is a podcast we're good friends with. Also, I helped them write it, but it is a collection of 25 character concepts, 25 encounter concepts, 25 monster variants, 25 magic items, 25 DM tips, and 25 player tips from that podcast. So it's a great collection of stuff. Players can benefit from it. DMs can benefit from it. It's got great stuff in there. We've been giving away Volume 1 for several months. And Justin asked if we wanted to start giving away Volume 2. So here we are. So the inaugural winner is Dustin F. So congratulations, Dustin. Thank you very much to Crit Academy for making this possible. It's so cool that they're willing to let us give this away, because it only came out 6 months ago, if even that.
Right.
So yeah, it's really, really cool. If anybody wanted to be like Dustin, how would they enter this drawing and possibly win a copy?
They can send us an email at interpartyconflict@gmail.com with unearthed tips and tricks 2 in the subject line.
Yes, you got to put the number 2 in there. You can misspell the rest of it if you want to. You got to put the number 2, or else it'll get put in the wrong folder, and then you won't win, because we're not giving away Volume 1 anymore. So
gotcha.
Put a 2 in there. It could be a number 2 or a Roman numeral 2 or the word 2.
Okay.
It's up to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got
All right. So once again, thank you to Crit Academy for facilitating this. Good job, Dustin. Thank you everybody else who has entered. We'll have a winner every week. So good luck to everybody out there. Also, if anybody wants to help support our show, we have a Patreon at patreon.com/InterPartyConflict. Patreon is an online platform. You can pledge to donate a certain amount of money per month to the creator of your choice. And if you pledge to us, we have a few different tiers. We've got outtakes. We've got fantasy fiction that I've written, and I'm turning them into audio fiction. Like I'm recording them as an audio drama. And it's been a while since I put one of those out, but I have one ready to go out. So if it's not out by the day this episode goes out, it'll come out in the next couple days. So check that out. Also, we've got a monthly bonus podcast, InterPatronConflict. So we've got some cool different topics we've done episodes on. Also, we have a monthly Roll20 game, and I am currently sending out information to our top tier patrons to figure out who wants to play in that, because we're doing something a little bit different this month. So, in fact, I'll even say we're going to be playing. I want to play a game of Dawn of Worlds, which is it's a game where you create a campaign world. I think it's intended to be played in person, because there's you physically draw out the world and then other people can edit it and such. I'm going to try and see what I can do to do that online. But I thought it'd be neat if we played a game of Dawn of Worlds and then future sessions can be set in that world.
Yeah, I think that'd be really cool. A setting made by our listeners. That'd be
I think that'd be really cool. So that's one of the benefits of our top tier of our Patreon. So if you want to help out the show and get some cool stuff in return, head to patreon.com/InterPartyConflict. Check out the rewards, see if anything appeals to you. And thank you very much to everybody who has donated. We know that times are kind of rough for a lot of people right now. So for everybody who's still willing to help out, we really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you very much.
And then just one more quick thing. Check out the other podcasts on the Crit Nation Fellowship. Check out Crit Academy. I already mentioned them. They're at critacademy.com. Justin, Ian, and Austin make new and reusable content for players and DMs alike. There may be something special coming out involving them pretty soon. So so stay tuned.
Yep.
Also check out Brute Force and Ignorance. I think they're still on hiatus, but they should be making more episodes pretty soon. And then check out D&D Character Lab. This is weird. They stopped making episodes a long time ago. They released a track on their RSS feed that it was just a couple minutes long. I'm not 100% sure what it was hinting at. It was it sounded like they might be making more episodes, but maybe I was mistaking that. So I'll try to do some research. I'll try to get in touch with them before next time and find out. But
potential teaser.
Teaser. It might be just another project that they're working on, and they were
Sure.
trying to direct people over there. So anyway, they made characters every week and pitted them against each other to debate whose characters were better. So go check that out. Enough with all that. Let's get into some questions.
All right. Our first question comes from Miles of Steel on Reddit, and they ask, "What are your thoughts on the Matt Mercer effect? Is it real? And if so, is it a problem?"
Yeah, and I'll say I've seen a lot of discussion about the Matt Mercer effect recently.
Yeah.
It's been a thing for at least a couple
while.
of years. But lately, particularly, it's caught my attention, so I figured we could talk about it.
And I feel like from time to time we've kind of not directly, but sort of touched on it. Like we've sort of referenced it here and there, maybe.
Yeah. Let's see how long we can go without actually saying what it is.
Right.
I recently re-listened to episode 151 that we did, which was intended to be, if anybody was coming to the show for the first time, I'm trying to direct people to that episode because that was kind of like, it's an introduction to our podcast. It's also an introduction to D&D.
Right.
And in our friend group, our friend Jay mentioned that another friend of ours from high school apparently was getting into D&D, and so he recommended that episode to her. And that got me thinking, hey, let me go back and listen to this episode. It's been a few months. Let me see what I think of how we did. I think we did. I think it was a pretty good episode. But
okay,
at one point in the episode, we did kind of touch on the Matt Mercer effect.
Oh, sure.
I recommended people listen to Critical Role, and you sort of like, I could tell you were sort of hesitant to agree with me.
Sure. Yeah. All right. So let's explain what the Matt Mercer effect is.
Yes. Long time ago, there was once. Sorry, go on.
Right. Yeah. The Big Bang, gas, and then it formed star. Anyway. Okay. So I don't know exactly like if there is like an online like Urban Dictionary definition or whatever of Matt Mercer effect, but from what I understand, it's basically like people who are new to D&D who haven't like done anything related to tabletop gaming, but then they see Matt Mercer in Critical Role and things like it, or listen to it, and then they think, "Ooh, that looks like a lot of fun. That sounded cool. I want to do that." And then they go and try and do that exact thing, and it does not live up to their expectations because they're trying to be they are trying to be a bunch of voice actors,
or at least they expect the game to be as good as Critical Role when none of the people involved are professional voice actors or professional D&D players.
Right. Yeah. So like it sets this expectation that is, not easily attainable.
Sure.
So yeah, so a lot of time it is like, newer players showing up wanting to play Critical Role, but then they're faced with like, oh, this is completely different. Like, the DM's not even that excited about it or something,
Sure. The DM isn't doing all these voices, and the DM isn't incorporating my backstory into the whole world and so on.
Yeah, and I can't even gaze into his eyes. It's so it's just he's not as handsome.
That's not a problem I've dealt with. So there is on Urban Dictionary it's Mercer Effect, not Matt Mercer Effect, but it's
sure
the same thing.
Yeah.
I did have to check.
What is it? What can you read it? Or is it explicit? Because it is Urban Dictionary.
Matthew Mercer is the dungeon master of the popular Dungeons & Dragons show Critical Role. The Mercer Effect is what people call it when fans of the show get into D&D carrying the expectation that their sessions should be at least as good or similar to what they've seen in the show, not keeping in mind that the players seen on Critical Role have years of experience in both D&D and acting.
Yeah.
So, yeah. If you have never played a game of D&D and you watch a video of people doing it, a video or a podcast or whatever, and because this isn't specific to Critical Role, Role is arguably, if not the most popular, one of the most popular platforms.
Yeah.
So if you were to watch an actual play or listen to an actual play and see it's just people sitting around the table having fun, you might think, oh, cool, I'm going to join a game and it's going to be exactly like this. And theoretically that's possible, sure, but you have to keep in mind that what you are watching is professionals performing for an audience. It isn't going to be exactly like the game that you have at home.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that the game you have at home isn't going to be fun. It will be fun in its own way, especially if you don't already have expectations. I feel like games I've played in person, even if they wouldn't be as fun to a third party, have been so much better than anything that I've listened to as a podcast,
Now, the Mercer Effect isn't a new thing. Like, no. It's called that specifically for D&D. But I mean, like this is the same thing for like sports.
Sure.
Like you watch a football game, you're like, that looks like a lot of fun. Look at how great those guys are playing, and it's so much fun, and everyone's cheering.
Mm-hmm.
And then you go with your friend out in the backyard, and you're just, throwing the ball around, and you're just like, you're not throwing it good, or you can't catch it or whatever, And again, I'm talking from experience of not being able to do physical activity very well. But I mean, like similar idea. You have this expectation of like this, like, throwing touchdowns or whatever the heck, sports balls, who knows? But it's expectation versus reality of these things. Like it takes practice. It takes a lot of work to get to that.
Yeah.
And you can even equate this to things like video games, especially now with like streaming.
Okay.
Like there are games that are basically specifically developed for streamers.
Yeah.
Like they are made to look fun on a stream so that everybody goes and gets that game because they're like, oh my God, this guy had, like, there was so much fun being had on the stream. Like, that's a professional streamer. That's somebody who, like, their job is to look like they're having a great time playing a video game.
Mm-hmm.
And like to be very like interactive with everybody. So like they put up this show of this, like, having this great time playing this video game, and then you go and buy that video game and you don't have thousands of people to interact with while you're playing it. So it's like it's not the same thing.
Yeah.
So like there are games that are very targeted towards like looking good on a stream, but not necessarily being fun if you don't have like dozens of friends to play with you at all times.
Sure. Another field where I feel like this is something that I'm sure a lot of people have experienced is cooking. In fact, when we did our, speaking of dinner party conflict, when we did our dinner party conflict episode, one of the questions was with stuff like competitive barbecue, food porn, and so on, they set up unrealistic expectations that encourage wasting food in favor of appearance and competition. Mm-hmm. And so that's definitely a thing. When you watch these, you'll watch a video that's like, oh, this video makes it look so easy to make creme brulee or something like that. And then if you try to do it yourself, of course it's going to be harder than the, 30-second animated GIF made it look like. So it's easy to get frustrated and to blame someone for making it look easy and making you think it would be easy. But again, you have to remember that these are professionals. They may not look like professionals because they are good at being professionals. If you were getting together with your friends to make a movie, it's like getting upset that your movie doesn't look like Infinity War. Like, of course it's not going to look like Infinity War. You aren't professionals. You don't have professional equipment. You haven't put tons and tons of money into doing it. It's just something you're doing for fun. So you do have to temper your expectations a little bit.
Yeah. It's their experience that makes it look easy.
Sure.
That makes you think like it might be easy and easy to do. Now, this is sort of like a negative, sort of cynical way of looking at it. Like, I guess it's not really, but so the bright side of this is more people are getting involved in this activity. Mm-hmm. So like, because they're having such a great time on Critical Role and everybody's watching and enjoying it, there are way more people playing the game now.
Yeah.
And not everybody who went and tried it after watching the show stuck around and kept playing it, but I'm sure they probably still watch the show or whatever. I don't even know if it's still going. Who knows? I don't.
I've never actually watched Critical Role before.
Same here, but I'm aware of its effects.
Sure.
But like more people are playing, like, so like they got like, thousands of more people to start playing D&D, and like that's great. Overall, that is great.
Yeah.
But it's me, the curmudgeon, going like, yeah, but they're not giving the people the right expectations. Like, you have to, like, there's work involved in the game. It's not just sitting down and the fun happens.
Sure. Yeah, it is a lot of work. I haven't seen any statistics that actually back this up, but I'd be willing to bet that the actual number of people affected by the Matt Mercer effect, like the number of people who actually were turned off by the game because it wasn't like Critical Role, is pretty low.
Yeah,
it's
I would
probably a
imagine.
pretty small percentage of the people that started playing because of Critical Role.
Mm.
So overall, I would still say that it is most likely still a net positive, for the hobby and such.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Hopefully it's even driven some people to be like, well, my game isn't like Critical Role now, but I want to make it like Critical Role, so that's what I'm striving towards.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That you got something to something to look forward to. You know, you can work towards that. I've had direct experience with the effect.
Okay.
And like specifically with Critical Role, and like I've said, I've never seen it, but a person that I DM'd for had seen it, and like I could see little things here and there that would happen that would be like disappointing to them.
Yeah.
Like they would want to do a specific thing, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, we got to look at the rules on this and this, and they go like, oh, you can't just do that. And it's like,
right.
No, I mean, I guess if I was a better DM, I would do the like, sure, let's do that, but because of I was a newer DM, so this is partly on me too. So I'm not gonna say,
don't beat yourself up about it.
Right. Yeah. It's so like there was a few moments of like, oh, you're expecting it to be the show.
Yeah.
For one, if I had seen the show, I could better like serve that need, like I might be able to be like, oh, I know what you're talking about. I can work something in that's similar to that, maybe, but more tailored to the specific adventure we're on or whatever. So like, again, maybe there was something more I could have done, but at the same time, it was sort of just like there was this expectation that the person had, and it wasn't met, and they kind of had this moment of like, oh, well, that's not fun.
Yeah.
That's not what I was expecting.
Yeah, I've never actually encountered it personally. I mean, I haven't really. Most of the people that I have DM'd for in the last few years have been like at library games and such, where most of the players are people who have never done anything D&D related in their lives. So I haven't really had to deal with it myself. That being said, upon hearing that it is a thing, now part of me is scared that there are people that are going to play a game with me, and then they'll be like, oh, this guy isn't Matt Mercer. And then it might turn them off from the game. I know I'd say that's an irrational fear, but
yeah. I don't think it's that, I don't think it's that huge of a thing. It's just one of those like, it's a gatekeeping kind of thing.
Sure.
And it's not, like we're not, most people aren't trying to be gatekeepers, they're just, you just have you have your own expectation of how the game is supposed to be played.
Yeah. It's an unfortunate side effect of part of the hobby becoming popular,
Yeah. That's like it's the, gosh, I remember, oh my goodness. So are you familiar with the band called Nerf Herder?
I might have heard the name, but then again, I know the term from Star Wars.
Right.
So I don't know.
So yeah, there's a band named Nerf Herder, and I remember like hearing about the band Nerf Herder and thinking like it was some rock band named Nerf Herder. I'm like, you don't understand. You don't get Star Wars. It's not about rock bands. What is like, who are you? Who do you think you are? Like, you get out of my fandom. And and to be completely honest, like I'm not the biggest Star Wars fan. I just liked it as a kid. Like,
sure.
I don't collect anything Star Wars related, but it was just sort of that like I had this like irrational anger of something getting popular that I liked, and like, a lot of people have dealt with that before.
Sure.
But yeah, I just my one specific memory of my first memory of nerd rage that I could think of was getting angry at the band Nerf Herder.
Sure. So I guess my thoughts on the Matt Mercer effect is that it is unfortunate, but it's not really anything you can avoid. It's going to happen with every kind of hobby. If it becomes I'm sure when Tony Hawk became popular, everybody who tried getting into skateboarding was suddenly like, oh my goodness, why is this so hard? This is stupid. I should be doing 360 ollies on a rail. you know,
I'm going to do so many grinds.
Yes. So I'm sure it's happened in other fandoms and such.
Yeah.
So I don't think that it is. It is real. I don't think it's a problem,
Right.
or at least it's not a problem that can be avoided. It's just going to happen.
Yeah. It's not like a problem for the game as a whole. It's just it could be a problem for a specific game session.
Sure. There's definitely going to be a DM or two that has a game ruined because of it, and that sucks. It sucks, but there isn't really, what are you going to do about it?
Yeah, but it is just a side effect of something that's actually really good, which is more people being interested in a game that takes people to play.
Sure.
Like if it was solitaire, you play it by yourself, like I guess maybe it wouldn't, like, it's not like, I don't know if there's anything to be gained by more people playing solitaire,
Is it solitaire at that point? That's what you got.
Well, no, I'm saying like if more people played solitaire by themselves, obviously. So, but like if there were more people playing solitaire, is that better for the game of solitaire? Maybe in the long run, like whoever put solitaire on a computer, maybe that person just really likes solitaire.
Sure.
And if that person hadn't been introduced to solitaire, they might not have made solitaire on every Windows computer ever.
Yeah.
Or I don't know what computer it started on. Anyway.
I do know that Windows did put solitaire on there to teach people how to drag and drop.
Sure. Yeah. So I mean, like, but with D&D where you like you need multiple people.
Yeah.
Like the more people you have, the more likely you're going to be, the more people playing the game, the more likely you're going to be able to play the game.
Yeah. So everybody out there, just try and remember that, and if someone doesn't realize this, try and let everybody know the people that make Critical Role are professionals. They didn't just decide, hey, let's start playing D&D and then suddenly become Critical Role. They were all actors. Like Matt Mercer has been doing voice acting for like 30 years or something.
Yeah. And it's not just the length of time, it's the amount of work the man does. Like he's in everything.
It's high noon.
It's like,
that's him.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He's pretty much like, I would say like 80% of the games you've played in the last like 5 or 10 years, maybe. I don't know about 10 years, but last like 5 years, I feel like he's like at least got a line in there somewhere.
Yeah.
Like it's so ridiculous.
But like also, they are professional D&D players. So they can afford to put 40 hours a week into developing the game and into making the game look and sound good. They can put money into making the game look and sound good because that is their job. If you're just playing a game at home, you're doing it in your free time. You don't have a work week to put into writing for your game and incorporating everybody's, backstories and stuff into the world. Matt Mercer does. And also, I've never watched the show, listened to, I don't even know if it's a podcast or a TV show or whatever. Yeah. Definitely not a TV show. That's not a thing. But he probably has a team of writers.
Yeah.
I think that's safe to assume that there are other people he at least consults with when making the game.
I don't know. From what I understand, he does a lot of his own writing and stuff. But I mean, but at the same time, I'm sure there's plenty of people like helping him like edit stuff and produce things like that. Like he's put out like player options that Wizards has published. He's published a like campaign setting and stuff like that. Yeah. So I mean, like, I'm sure he's put in plenty of work on his own, but
it is definitely, it definitely involves more people than you are seeing just on the screen.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And what's another one? Oh, Harmon Quest.
Okay. Yeah. I actually, when I was looking up stuff for this episode, I did hear some people referring to it as the Dan Harmon effect rather than the Matt Mercer effect.
Right. So yeah, it's the Harmon Quest. And like they, that's like sort of like a show because they actually have like people up on stage. They're playing it live in front of people.
They have a literal audience.
Yeah, and then they go and edit it and animate it, animate segments of it and stuff. So, like, there's a lot of production involved in making it look fun.
Sure.
And, that is more show than it is game. Like, they like there's less of the game involved in that.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, that the game is more behind the scenes than something like that.
Sure. So I don't think that it's, again, it is a problem, but it's not a big problem. And I think that as the game just becomes more, as more people understand the game, it'll be less of a problem and less of a problem.
Yeah.
This does make me wonder, though, how would you feel, Jeff, if there was an effect named after you?
I mean, yeah, that's a good point. Like, this is a thing that could be seen as like, this is a negative effect that this man has had on our hobby. How dare he?
Sure.
So, I think maybe off the bat, I'd be like, that's, man, that I would probably be pretty bitter about it. But like I've come to realize with the Matt Mercer effect, it's just a symptom of a good thing.
Yeah.
Like, it's just a side effect of a good thing. Cause it's like, ultimately it just means more people are playing, and that's good.
Sure.
So I'd be like, well, if I'm having an effect, like it's a net positive, like
sure.
If you're Matt Mercer, you're like, well, sure, there is some rockiness there, but at the very least, I've like brought this fun hobby to a lot of people who wouldn't have known it otherwise.
Yeah. Well, I think that'll do it for our regular questions for today, but we do still have our social media questions. Our last social media question was, if you had to make your favorite superhero as a PC in a game like D&D, how would you make them? Do you recall if you had a favorite superhero when we did this?
Well, I don't know if it was my favorite superhero per se, but it was the most recent character that I made that was at least somewhat based on a superhero.
Okay.
I'd said Iron Man, which I do like Iron Man a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's my favorite superhero. I haven't really delved into the superhero stuff in a while, other than watching the Avengers stuff, which everybody did anyway. So I made an artificer, but it was a Warforged artificer that I flavored as not a Warforged, but a human that had some sort of accident that like fused an artifact with his body that was like giving them these powers, basically. And I thought it was cool because the Battlesmith artificer was able to use their intelligence modifier for attack and damage.
Yeah.
And I kind of thought that made sense for like somebody like Iron Man, because like it's his intelligence that makes the suit, which the suit is strong. Like, Tony Stark is as strong as a human can be. But the suit is incredibly strong, and it's his intelligence that made that suit. So I'm like, okay, that kind of tracks. That sounds good.
Yeah, and you've got to imagine the suit probably aims his attacks to some extent,
Yeah. So he's like it helps him aim, and helps him do these great feats of strength.
Mm-hmm.
There was a long time ago where I made, I think it was in 3rd edition or 3.5, where I made Spider-Man.
Okay.
Which was just a monk with incredibly high jump stats and like boots of spider climb. And I think I gave him like gloves of storing with ropes of climbing inside them.
Sure.
For the web slinging and all that. So like I did that a long time ago.
Yeah. For me, it was hard picking my my favorite superhero. Spoilers, I didn't really pick a favorite superhero. I mean, really, I like several. I like Spider-Man. I like Thor. I really like Jamie Madrox, who is Multiple Man, because for a long time, I would say that making duplicates would have been my favorite superpower if I could have had a superpower.
Right. Yeah. That's.
But like, how do you make that in D&D that isn't just going to completely break the game? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like or it's just mirror image, which
I guess
which is a good spell, but it's just one spell.
Yeah. I know there's some weird combination you can do with Simulacrum and Wish that can make like infinite duplicates or something. So
that's some, like,
I guess.
That's some late game high level, like your DM has to be in on it, you know, kind of a thing. Like you gotta really want it, and the DM's gotta really want it too.
Sure.
Know?
I did briefly play a character in Mutants and Masterminds that could make duplicates though, but apparently the group that I joined there was a guy that had just stopped playing with them, and he had a character that made duplicates, and he did it way better than I did. So I felt like I was walking in somebody else's shadow. So
whoa, well.
Anyway, so we got some responses from our listeners over on Facebook. Colin W says, I wouldn't have known where to start, but luckily Justin over at Crit Academy loves Venom as much or more as I do, and I made an awesome Venom build using Fighter and Barbarian multiclassing. And on Crit Academy, they released a product on DM's Guild that is the Symbiote, and it's basically just you make a character that is a Fighter Barbarian multiclass, but you flavor the Barbarian's rage as this symbiote taking over your body.
Right, yeah.
And it's really cool. He posted that build on some Facebook group, and people were talking about how broken it was, and it's like, dude, this is literally something you can already do in the rules. He just reflavored it.
Right, yeah. It's multiclassing can be powerful.
It can be, yeah.
That's that's just a thing.
Yeah.
So if you're looking at it as a single class that somebody made up, quote unquote, you might say like that just seems overpowered, when it's like, no, it's not. It's just multiclassing, and then you just call it something different.
Yeah. But that's the power of reskinning something. It can look like something completely new. Sean M says, I had Batman as a vigilante in Pathfinder. And I feel like that's actually, that's probably one of the inspirations for that class existing. So that makes sense.
Sure. I think I made an urban ranger character that was supposed to be kind of Batman-like, maybe.
Wasn't your character a changeling and he had like different personalities?
No, wait, I can't remember. I think I had, maybe I was going for more like a Green Arrow sort of thing.
Oh, okay.
I can't remember.
I don't know. Nathan H says, Captain America as a Kensai Monk Cavalier Fighter multiclass. Cavalier because he could either ride his motorcycle or even on foot. The Cavalier features are very team-oriented and protective. The tough thing is his shield. I think that would just have to be a unique adamantine magic weapon. And then in parentheses, yes, I know it's vibranium, not adamantium. I'm meeting the D&D rules halfway on that one.
Yeah, it's the idea is that it's like very like hard to get past. I don't know. Yeah. It's a very defensive object. I get it. And
I feel like some comics nerd Jay is probably going to correct me on this, but I think adamantium it was vibranium that was like treated in a certain way to turn it into adamantium.
From what I remember, it was somebody was trying to make vibranium, and then they accidentally made adamantium or something like that.
Okay.
I don't know for sure, but I'm remembering something like that.
So you're telling me the comics nerd is you, Jeff?
I'm pretty sure if I'm remembering that right, I probably heard it from Jay. So.
Yeah, probably. JT says, ooh, it would have to be Spider-Man. Chaotic good alignment, a multi-class of monk and wizard. Wizard would just be to get the divination school for portent, which would be Spidey sense. Or homebrew something similar where a check against me would get disadvantaged so many times per day.
That's actually really good.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
I like that a lot.
Jason, in fact, says, using Pathfinder 2nd Edition rules, I would make Cyclops as a human investigator with the sorcerer archetype. His bloodline would be elemental so that he could elemental toss to deal bludgeoning damage from 30 feet away at will. I would give him the raised by belief background, but instead of a deity, he would follow the philosophy of Xavier's dream. Highly skilled with some athletic and martial ability, and I can shoot beams of force from his eyes. So yeah, because, Cyclops beams aren't heat. They're like concussive force. So it's kind of like just getting socked really hard from a distance.
Yeah. Like a lot of the movies like portrayed. I mean, like I the way I always pictured it was because it's such powerful concussive force that it like creates heat,
generates
by
heat,
friction. Yeah. So like the laser effect that they give it in the movies is not like, not completely off, off base.
Yep. Chris F says Batman. Fighter, Weapon Master 4, Brawler 12, Investigator or Vigilante 4, Iron Magi build, Weapon Mastery in Unarmed. There you go. And then Eric M says, Booster Gold. He would have full gold armor because he's all about glam and fame. However, he would be a bit crazy. Truly thinking he was from the future and his armor was somehow enchanted, when in reality, no one likes him. He gets beat constantly and no one likes him. He was actually a court jester that took a nasty fall and bumped his head too hard. So that's pretty good. Over on Reddit, Alistar the Minotaur says, this might be a little old for some folks, but my favorite superhero is Spawn. I think he'd have to be a Pact of the Blade warlock with a couple levels in either fighter or barbarian. He was definitely an anti-hero with a couple vendettas to take care of. He was super hard to kill, a la barbarian or fighter, but was a master with melee weapons as well as firearms, which you could just reflavor Eldritch Blast as a gun.
That cool.
Spawn's awesome. I haven't read very many Spawn comics, but Spawn definitely had an awesome aesthetic, I would say.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Jesus Bagels says, I like to imagine the Green Lantern Corps as an order of space paladins, but their ability set doesn't really translate well into the paladin class. Maybe some kind of paladin artificer mix. I would say conjuration wizard.
Sure.
Because they can just create things, you know.
That's true. Yeah. I was thinking more along the lines of like a celestial warlock or something like that.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I feel like you could go a lot of different ways with the Green Lanterns.
Yeah,
Just
really with
like,
all of these, there's no wrong way to do it. You know.
Right, yeah. I mean, like there are some that like have more like obvious paths to take, but I don't know. I feel like because some of the Green Lantern, like some of the different Green Lanterns and the different Lantern Corps and stuff have a lot of more. They're more individual in some ways.
Sure.
I don't know.
Yeah. Over on Twitter, Adam G says, I always liked Gambit, so probably a fighter with flavored arrows that are playing cards charged with his power. Could be Battlemaster or Eldritch Knight. I'm not familiar with Arcane Archers.
Yeah, I'm wondering if... I don't think the Arcane Archer, at least in 5th edition, can be done with like anything other than a bow. I think you have to have use a bow.
Yeah.
And I don't even think you can do crossbows even.
That's weird.
But I'm wondering with some work with the DM or something like that, you could make it like thrown weapons instead.
Sure.
You know, I feel like that could be doable.
Yeah. Over on Discord, Collins B says, Nightwing, variant human magic initiate feat. Sorcerer taking shocking grasp, and then I guess he has a weapon called an Eskrima stick. And also the jump spell. Entertainer background since he's a former circus acrobat. 4 levels in Scout Rogue as the first Robin it fits. Then 9 levels in Shadow Monk, trained by Batman after all. The spells you get from that can be reflavored as gadgets. Darkness is smoke bombs, dark vision, detective vision, etc. Then the rest of your levels up in Rogue. Little overlap of abilities, but an overall very Nightwing build. Yeah, that works.
It's pretty good.
That fits my understanding of the character. Floofy Shoob says, too easy. Doctor Strange is not a sorcerer. He's a wizard. He has to study.
Yeah.
Stiltskin Koopo 84 says, I'm pretty sure that with a 20 strength, enough lightning magic, and a returning throwing hammer, you can make Thor. He would also need a 20 con and flight. But the MCU makes him look stupid. Bad int is bad for lightning spells, yes? I am sure at least that 4th edition has a feat that lets you use a stat other than intelligence for spells. Strength would only cover lightning elemental melee attacks. 20 charisma would seem to fit Thor for a ranged magic user.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like even just like in Norse mythology, like Thor kind of always had this like, he's not dumb, he's just sort of, he's very sure of himself, and
sure.
he doesn't think he needs to think, you know?
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. He's not unintelligent. He's just so sure of himself that he's like, I don't need to think about this. I'm just going to do it, you know?
Yeah. Autumn Wind says, Deadpool should be a rogue, I think, with all the sneak attack damage. He can use a rapier or a light crossbow. He's probably a swashbuckler. And to do him right, you would say he was reincarnated as a half-orc and now has a boon that is some sort of innate healing factor. Dr. Taco 86 says, much like the example noted on the show, I once made a poor man's Iron Man with a Warforged sorcerer. I didn't have a chance to play him for long before the game ended, but I did really enjoy it while it lasted. I flavored the fire bolts as gauntlet blasters, thunder wave as something like an energy burst from his chest. I ended up going with wild magic, which was explained as being part of the suit malfunctioning from time to time.
Nice.
That's kind of like the Warforged character you made.
Yeah.
With Wild Magic.
What do we call him?
You
called him Havoc.
Havoc was what we called the out of control magic.
But he was so Kaput
was his name. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I like that.
And then FAM says, one of my favorite superheroes is Penny Parker from the Spider-Verse comics. Because she is continuing the project with the SP Doctor suit and has to work with electronics, I thought that a Battlesmith Artificer was a good option. She would be a variant human with the alert feat. I wasn't sure about the background, but maybe Guild Artisan.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, that was those were our responses on social media. Thank you everybody who wrote in. So that was last week's question. Next week's question is, have you ever joined a group and felt woefully inexperienced compared to everyone else? If so, how did it develop?
Of course not. No. I don't know. Like, I don't know about woefully inexperienced, because like when I started playing was like not too far after Steve started playing.
Sure.
So like I was learning along with a lot of people. So
yeah.
But maybe when I started playing with you and Jay.
Okay.
I was like a little. I felt like maybe I was a little behind, but I don't think I'd say I was woefully inexperienced.
Yeah, I mean, I guess maybe there's a bit of nuance to the question that I could have gone into, but I feel like, so much of the gaming experience is going to be the group dynamic.
Yeah,
and anytime you join a new group, there's going to be some adjustment that has to be made. I definitely, though, had an experience when I first started playing with Chris, in fact.
Dang.
I was playing with...
That's Chris, man.
Well,
you're always like, I mean you specifically,
yeah.
But like if you're playing with Chris, you're behind the times, like he's ahead of you in every way.
Yeah. Well, so I started playing with him. It was him and it was Melissa and this guy John, and the first session that I was playing with them, I had been DMing for at least a few months by that point, because I had learned how to play as a player, and then I started a group of my own with Jay and Steve and Jamie, I think. And then I went and I basically answered an online ad pretty much looking for a new player for this D&D group. And everybody else, I was just sitting at the table. I had no idea what to say or do, because they all just knew the game so much better than I did. There would be times where Chris would just look at a monster's stat block and then say how the battle would go if we were fighting this thing. He'd be like, okay, your character's going to do this. Your character's going to do this. The monster's going to do this. And it was kind of like what you were saying. I was so far behind Chris, but it was the whole group. Everybody else, they had so clearly been doing this for so long. And so I also had to, get to know the whole group. And also they were teaching me how to play the game just by me being there. And it was definitely a great learning experience, but I jumped in the deep end so quickly without realizing it,
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, definitely. It's definitely happened to me. So I wonder if any of our listeners have had experiences similar to that.
Sure.
All right, that'll do it for our questions for today. So before we close out, let's relax, let's wind down, let's take a deep breath. Let's remember those who have come before us, who have given their lives so that we may have a better world to live in, as we toss another log onto the funeral pyre. Today's funeral pyre was submitted by Top Hat and Teacup Monk via Reddit. We were fighting a sort of anti-party. I, the player, thought it would be a good idea for my fighter to run into a group of 3 enemies with only 50% health. I got knocked down, and their warlock finished me off by making me auto-fail 2 saves after I've failed 1. Since that day, I've paid a lot more attention in combat. So, a simple one, a short one, but
right.
I'm sure we've all been in situations where it was our own negligence that led to some mistakes being made.
Hubris.
So let's raise a glass in memory of Top Hat and Teacup Monk's character, who reminds us, just pay attention. Clank. All right, that'll do it for today. To submit questions for us to discuss, items for the Dragon's Horde, or stories for a funeral pyre, please email us at interpartyconflict@gmail.com. For show notes, links to media mentioned on the show, and running lists of questions and magic items, go to interpartyconflict.com. Join the discussion on social media. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, we're on Reddit, we're on our Interparty Discord. Check us out for our weekly social media questions. Your answers might end up on the show. Find us on iTunes, Google Play Music, Stitcher, YouTube, Spotify, iHeartRadio, anywhere you can find podcasts. Please leave us a rating, a review, subscribe to us, or just tell a friend. If you want to support the show monetarily, check us out at patreon.com/interpartyconflict. We have a few different tiers, so anything you can spare, even $1 a month, would go towards making the show better, and you'll get bonus content for it. Jeff, tell us about FriendQuest.
FriendQuest is a YouTube channel where we play video games. I've also been doing some work in my basement, finally getting my my little recording area set up down there again. So I haven't been able to do long form recordings because I'm in my living room at this point right now.
Sure.
So I'm working on getting that set up so we can do some more game recordings and possibly more streams, because we are planning on doing the charity stream in November.
Yes, Extra Life.
Yep.
Cool. Yeah, so we'll have some details for that when they become available.
Yep.
Awesome. Speaking of video games, you can check out my side project, the Arcade Memories podcast. If you want to submit any of your own childhood memories of going to the arcade, send them to me at arcadememoriespodcast@gmail.com. Also, head over to bit.ly/interpartyconflict to take a short survey about our show. What you like, what you don't like, etc. And just for taking it, you'll get 2 free printable board games courtesy of Mary and Tom over at hollandspiel.com. And our music is made by Boxcat Games from Nameless the Hacker's RPG. So, Jeff, until next time...
Gabe, this was nothing like Critical Role.